Assalamualaikum. How are you doing, man? Good to see you. God bless you.
Just check out your friend.
You're more slick than me, man.
Easy now, easy.
I had the same color. I still can't wait to do it. Also, we're the same color.
Oh, no,
That'd be awkward, man.
Maybe 20.
Exactly.
Awesome. Cheers, bro.
I don't know. I don't know, but I'm good to see you.
We're still figuring this out.
Yeah, I know.
I'm back to the airport in 12 hours, so
Wow.
yeah, in and out. Dynamic times with it.
MashaAllah.
Hang on a second. Yeah.
All right. Okay, you got it here.
Okay, salam. Thank you. To English, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I can sit out. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor, man. I mean, even years ago, I was following your content on Instagram, and your delivery, the way you made it accessible, is part of the reason why you were a part of my process to take Shahada. So
I never knew that.
being able to host you in my house and ask you questions is an honor, man. So thank you. Bless you, really. The honor is mine from the elevation that thank. So the intent for this chat, as someone new to Islam, first of all, what do you reckon? We good drum. It's all okay.
Man, if I cover your face, this guy's a Bedouin. This is Bedouin from Abu Dhabi. Not from my wife.
It is specific. If Bedouin wants to go to warrior class, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I would like that. That'd be cool. I'd be proud to be a Bedouin. Thank you. So the intent for this chat, I see that there's a lot of content out there for real beginners with Revert.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of content out there that's very advanced, like theoretical debates, really deep diving into the literature. I don't see that much. Perhaps it's there. I just haven't seen it for someone who's, say, 3 to 9 months into their journey as a revert, and they're taking it seriously. So what I'd like to do, and I've gotten some friends' input, some other reverts. I've got a bunch of questions that are relevant to somebody who, again, is past the beginner phase, if you will, but is in no way ready for the really advanced conversations. And I'd love to just ask a bunch of questions and have a discussion for that. Let's say 6-month revert.
Sure. That's very well. I think a lot of people need such questions, because, as you said, there's a lot of reverts. There's even new Muslims who really require answers to some of the questions that, inshallah, as a revert, are going to ask.
Yeah, I like it. All right, thank you. So let's crack on. So I've divided the questions into different categories: that of study and the process of study, which obviously is pretty important in this phase in my journey. Salah, obviously, a key pillar in every revert's life. Then a bit of a chat about relationships, and then Islam in the modern world, which is, I think there'll be some tricky questions there, so let's hold that to the end. But just before we started the camera rolling, you mentioned that documentary that Brother Tate, or the questioning, could you call it a documentary? The biased questions of the BBC journalist that we just wanted to take. Well, what were your comments on that? Because I thought they were very relevant.
I watched it yesterday. And it was very hard for me to really watch it, because the questions were expired. It was something that he addressed in full detail, and just kept on repeating it. And the journalist, he would answer, and she would just keep on, going back to it. It's as if she was a robot.
Like anything but a journalist.
And yes, exactly. So I really think it was a waste of time for Tate. It was a waste of time for us watching this. But this shows you that people who are against Andrew Tate are people who have no case.
They're not searching for truth.
No. It's a matter. I think it's just personal.
Yeah,
it's just personal.
It triggered them, so they need to come at him with hard-hitting questions. What was very interesting there, as some context, the BBC put forward a list of questions. So they said, these are the questions we want to be asking Andrew Tate. And they were very balanced questions. Now, of course, we know that BBC is going to do what BBC does. Yeah. But it was very interesting that those balanced questions that they said they would ask, they never even came close to. As soon as they were sitting in front of him, it was all those loaded, leading questions, a lot of negativity, a lot of insinuating things which logically don't make sense. Absolute liars, unethical liars. Imagine going to someone, we'd like to come into your house and ask you these questions. And as soon as you're there, we'll throw that out and just push all these. Because again, as a trained investigator, there's an open question.
Yes.
Then there's closed questions. There's leading questions. There's loaded questions. There is an honest way and an efficient, effective way to ask questions.
Yeah.
And then there is trying to push your agenda on someone. I don't think they asked a single professional question. And these are so-called professional journalists. They're just liars. They're unethical propaganda mouthpieces. And I think the people are starting to realize, I think there's less and less trust for Western mainstream media as a result of these blatant games. And then I'd love your opinion here, but okay, if you don't like Tate because of things he said on the internet, I get that. But why not ask for his side of the story as well as yours? Why not make it balanced? Why not make it interesting? To your point, it was a waste of time for everybody. It was the same old, same old. They can't help themselves.
And the irony of it, they're trying to frame him with lie and cheat. And they came with lie themselves.
Wow, big catch.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway, thankfully we're here in the UAE where I feel there's a lot less of these sort of woke agendas that you pushed on people.
Oh, yeah.
Alhamdulillah for that. I really believe that raising a family in the UAE...
Isn't that a special month now?
Oh, of course. And actually, one thing I noticed, without going too deep into this, I noticed there's a growing movement within the LGB community that they don't want to be involved with all the other letters because they see that it's become almost like a...
What do you mean?
So it was insult. Yeah, so there are people who would identify as lesbian or bisexual and as gay.
Yeah.
They don't want to be involved with the trans and all the pronouns. They see it being pushed in a way that's not healthy, and they see it being pushed in a way that doesn't really help their community either. So it's even within there's division, even within that. Yeah, which I think is quite promising. It's because it's gone beyond just representing people's rights or differences. It's now a propaganda tool as part of this whole wokeism drive. And even people within that so-called community are starting to say, hey, we don't want anything to do with this. This is too much for us. Yeah, there is hope. But thankfully, we did it. That's something that we're safe from. We are indeed. And our children's minds are safe. I think it's very important.
They don't want you and me. We're adults. We're not going to be affected by all this nonsense. It's the kids.
Yeah.
After the kids.
Yeah. And that's very careful. That's, again, my interpretation. I don't want to say anything that's not accurate, but if I was Shaitan and I wanted to corrupt the human population, I wouldn't be targeting the adults. I would be targeting those in the schools. But that's the next 10 minutes. Yeah. It's going to change the world. Yeah. That's my dog realizing that he's not allowed to come in the house. No, actually, I had this question for later on in the modern day life as a Muslim who's taking his faith seriously. I know that you can have a dog if it has a purpose. And I've always been trained to be a guard dog. I have a lot of people come into my house. I need to have it just as a deterrent. Like I choose to have. Thankfully, Dubai is a very safe city. Is it okay to have it in the house as long as you don't get your saliva on you before you pray, for example? Like, what's the specifics there?
Well, I had not because I am your friend and I love you so much, but I'm going to give you the upper raw answer, the unbiased answer, please. There are four madhab, schools of jurisprudence in Islam. It's certainly a methodology or belief. And now the three madhab, which is Hanafi, Shafi'i, and Hanbali. All of these three, they say that it is not allowed to have the dog inside because of the hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. He said that angels will not enter. You know the hadith, and the Commodore was a man. Yeah. The Maliki one, they say it is allowed to own a dog for whatever reason. It's not a purpose reason. Now, the other three, what do they say? They say you are allowed to own a dog for a very valid reason. Guarding, hunting, maybe, to control the sheep for the shepherds or anything like that, or the cattle. That's fine. But other than that, it's not allowed.
Interesting. Okay.
The Maliki said, it's fine. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of other situation that is linked to that. Okay. Now, for example, the Hanbali madhab, they say that if something is impermissible to own and it's impermissible to buy and sell, we fall into now a bit of a problem.
And this is tricky.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in any way, I think, I think your dog is a guard dog.
100%.
I can see that. Everyone is here. That's the point. But the catch is, should he be in the house or outside? This is something that really, I personally, I don't know. And I really have to check. I know because outside it's quite hot. I don't know if he can survive outside. That's the thing. Yeah.
Well, I know it's Surah Al-Kamath.
Yeah.
They talked about a dog being inside the cave. So.
Yes, but there's two problems with this. People actually use this as evidence. However, this is ikhbar, meaning that Allah is telling us of a story. That doesn't mean it permits it.
Yeah, okay.
Also, we have to understand that the nations before us probably had do's and don'ts different than ours. And so, for example, in the story of Yusuf, the Prophet Yusuf, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran that his family members, his brothers and his mother and his father prostrated to him. at the end when he saw the dream. So I saw a dream that the sun and the moon and the sun are prostrating to me. So his father said, that's us. And then he said, don't tell your brothers. The story goes on. But today in Islam, can we prostrate to someone? The answer is no. Exactly. So there are some things that was in previous nations or previous religions that were permissible, it's not permissible.
Okay.
So there's two points to that.
Okay. I think I'm more confused than I was 5 minutes ago. But I'm really like, thank you. And okay, I'll continue to reflect. For me, as long as I keep him out of certain areas of the house, and especially away from the areas where I pray, perhaps that's my happy medium. I know it's hot outside, like
I know it's inshallah, I will ask about this and we can find the solution.
To be continued.
Yeah, it's actually sorry about it.
All right, fantastic. So I'd like to talk a bit about study. And for me, I don't see how you could be a good Muslim as a revert without a lot of studying. And so I have quite a conscious approach to study. I try to put in a certain amount of time each evening as part of my sleep hygiene. When you get away from devices, don't get anything of that blue light so your body slows down your sleep properly. It really helps sleep so much better. And if you don't get much sleep like me, it's essential. So I'll put time into Arabic study and into reading certain books. For the recent reverts, can I talk about the books that have been particularly helpful? So I've been blessed with a lot of support from the Ummah when I reverted. And so many people have given me books and given me gifts and given me guidance. So it's incredible. The books that I've found really stand out. Firstly, Al-Quran, Al-Karim. And the beautiful thing with this is each word has the English to lot. And for me, as someone who's got a lot of time learning languages, I know my learning style. I can't learn sentences. I need to learn each word to then understand what the sentence means. That's going to stick. So the approach to this book is incredibly useful for that. So I'd say that was a key.
I'll recommend start. It's a beautiful copy of the translation or the interpretation of the Quran. Can I point out, just comment something on this book, please? A lot of reverts fall into this misconception. They get the transliteration of the Quran. Now, this is impermissible. A lot of the scholars, they said it's impermissible because of the reason that they want to preserve the authenticity of the Quran. So the transliteration is, as we know, it's Latin words, but the pronunciation is Arabic. A lot of reverts say, well, we don't speak Arabic and we want to learn, for example, the surah and the Fatiha, and it's not allowed to learn the Arabic script. That's in 2 days. Thank you very much. Exactly. So it is a couple of days of just practice, and I think you will get it. So that's number one. Number two, like I said, the Quran was revealed in Arabic, and it is the word of Allah. This is very important that people know this. So meaning that Allah spoke, and he gave that speech to Gabriel, and it was revealed to Muhammad. So it is not a creation. This is not created. This is the word, the words in it. It is the literal word of Allah. When Allah speaks, you mention it as it is. Don't try to change the language of it. But what we have today here is not the translation of the Quran. We have to be specific, we have the interpretation of the Quran in English. See where the difference is? If we say translation of the Quran, meaning you're translating word by word, this is not it. We're actually just interpreting the ayats.
Interesting. So the real answer is to get Arabic to the level where you can understand the Quran.
You got to do that.
That's a lot of work, brother. And I've studied Arabic for 7 years. You're there.
No, really.
I'm kidding.
لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will not burden you with things that you cannot handle. Meaning that if it's hard for you, some people, they might find it hard for them to learn a bit of the Quran to establish the prayer, which is obligatory. Now, a man came to the Prophet, والسلام, peace and blessing be upon him, and he did say this, I don't know the Quran, but I want to pray. What should I do? He said, say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allah, but in your movement of prayers, but prayer. Nice. So we have some discounts.
I like that. It's some first gear before you get into fifth.
But also, like you said, we got to learn a bit of Arabic.
100%. Yeah. And also, what a beautifully complex language too. I think learning Arabic, when you understand the weight of the language and the depth of it, it's very satisfying. It's difficult, but it's satisfying. Nothing worthwhile in life comes easy. I think that applies to Arabic. Is it poor form that other books sitting up Quran, or is this okay?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not the Quran itself, but yes, it should be.
We don't want the haters coming out. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so another fantastic book given to me. Again, these are all gifts by my dear mother, fortunately Muslim.
Yes.
I have a question about this. For those who aren't familiar with it, basically there are invocations to pretty much every situation in life. To from entering the mosque to entering someone's house to even trying on new clothes. There's so much here. I find it very enjoyable to read and understand. But to memorize all of that, to use all of that in a daily basis, is that expected? Because that's a lot. Like that's to me. At least
If you notice how small this is and how big this is, the reason why they made it small, even the Arabic version, is that small, because it's a pocket thing.
Okay.
You carry it around. You don't have to memorize it.
Okay, enough.
So no, you don't have to memorize it, but keep it with you. Sometimes you repeat some of them. You memorize it. Natural to say. But yeah, it's just a reference.
All right, fantastic. And I like that it's portable. This goes with me.
Exactly. And by the way, we can have it on your phone applications. Oh, really? So there's an application for this. Because that's also more convenient.
I like that. All right, fantastic.
And like you said, it's a very important book that I think every Muslim, revert or all Muslim, seems to have it. Yeah, because like you said, it has a lot of things in life situation that you want to supplicate or do dhikr or remembrance of Allah.
Exactly. And I find from that, it's easy to understand the intent behind, again, the niyyah. Like if you're actually in someone's house, you set a certain intent.
Yeah.
So like, and this is the best way to understand the best niyyah to approach various situations in life. I respond to use. Another book, my goodness, I've got use out of this one. This is from you, and then there's other information.
Yeah.
So for the reverts who want to pray very accurately, which I've set out to do, it has each step of salah, from Surah al-Fatiha to all the details. And what I do is, and I recommend this, I take this to the masjid a little early before prayer. I'll sit, read for a bit. I'll pray, then afterwards I'll sit, read for a bit. Because for me, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of reverts, life is so busy. As soon as his phone's around, what are you going to choose? And I really study on the phone. So I leave the phone at home, I go to the masjid, and then that's how I'm at, putting aside time regularly to learn to pray properly. So hugely useful book, strongly recommended. Two more. I found this to be super. I found this to be super useful. The complete 40 Hadith. And again, from very well-read brothers, I've recommended this. I travel with this.
Personal favorite.
Oh, really? I love it. Okay, fantastic. And this is something I find you could read again and again. And the commentary here as well makes it very accessible. So I really have found this useful.
Many scholars, contemporary scholars, actually explained or commented on these 40 days because it covers all the aspects of Islam. And Imam al-Nawawi, one of the great prominent scholars, he compiled this one based on, and I just told you this previously, that he compiled this Hadith 42 basically, because of the Hadith of the Prophet. He said, whoever learns, memorizes, or narrates and memorizes 40 Hadiths from me, then he will enter Jannah with the prophets and the pious people. So Imam al-Nawawi compiled this, but it's an unauthentic hadith, subhanAllah. But we got the benefit of
we can afford it.
Exactly. Alhamdulillah.
That's like appreciation the context. And for me, studying all the different pillars of belief, the one that I was most confused about was that of Akhirah, Jahannam, hereafter. So a very close brother of mine gave me this book and said, please read this. And I found it super useful. And my thinking is, alhamdulillah, but it wasn't always the case, but in my life now, my day-to-day reality is optimized in every way. I feel I have the beautiful, healthy family. I have brothers. I have faith. I have health. I have meaningful work. And, the material things, everything's covered. So my thinking was, what's better than what I already have, alhamdulillah, But reading this book, I understood the contrast between the joys of Jannah, the Jannah and the terrors of Jahannam.
Yes.
This made that real. And I actually find it quite useful. If the goal is to keep ourselves accountable and keep ourselves on that Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, understanding Akhirah, understanding Jahannam properly, I found it to be quite a useful mental exercise with which to really think, hang on, I want to make the right decisions every day. So the brother who told me to read this, I appreciate that. I found it very useful. Paradise and Hell, Dr. Umar al-Ashfa, and that's useful as well.
MashaAllah, that's a very, very good. I think a lot of Muslims need to be connected with that. I mean, Islam is not just a pragmatic kind of lifestyle. What's in it for you in this life, but actually you have to think of the Akhirah. You have to think of the hereafter. You have to think that you want to win paradise. In the end, if you think about it, everything that you gain in this life, whether it is positive or negative, they're perishing. Everything is perishing.
It's all going to dust one day.
And because of that, your joy and your connection to it is also perishing. And that's why you're going to get money, but you're never satisfied. You always have that missing thing inside of you. You just want more. You want more. And even if you get more, you probably just get bored of it. Like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, the diminishing returns are real. After a certain point, the buzz is lost.
Because it's something emotionless. Not like the asset. After us, old, everlasting. So, and then a lot of people try to not make sense, but try to imagine what exactly is heaven and hell. The Prophet ﷺ told us that it is something that your mind cannot comprehend. You've never seen it, you've never experienced it. All we know is that it is something that Allah promises, and it is something that is complete happiness and positivity, that it is nothing like what you have seen today. Maybe the names are the same, like you'll find rivers of alcohol, of lebanon, of milk, of all these beautiful things that we might think, okay, I can understand what this means. No, you don't. They're just names, but in reality, you're not going to really understand exactly what it is. Yeah, we just want to restate it.
Back and so thank you, awesome. So they're the books I found really useful. Now, I've been very privileged in that I can walk to the mosque. You know, and I mean, like even sitting with you is but I'm very fortunate. I'd say that it's started so thank you. And I've had a lot of other brothers who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of just hours spent learning about Islam and sharing their guidance. I often think of my brother Andrew, and I often pray for him and his brother and their well-being. What's for someone like him who doesn't have the opportunity to go to a mosque, who doesn't have the opportunity to have good face-to-face chats really with brothers who can guide him with Islam? What would your advice be? I mean, for me, it's easy. I'm an easy mode. Learning to be a good Muslim is easy mode. All the support I've got, mosque across the road. For someone who doesn't have such fortune, and again, we see Andrew in such a position when he's not able to even go to a mosque. What would your guidance be for that?
Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jalla, by the mercy of Allah, that He made worshipping Him and getting connected to Him is easy. No doubt, going to a mosque is a blessing, and then it increases your relationship and your connection with Allah. But if that is not happening, then Allah made it so easy for us that we supplicate and we worship and we get closer to Him wherever we are. And as you know, if you can't pray in the mosque, you can pray. If your limbs are chopped off and you can't pray, you can pray just nodding your head. If you can't do ablution, pray without ablution. If it's not possible. If you don't know where the Qibla is, pray without the Qibla. As long as, so Allah is not stopping you from getting connected to Him. But subhanAllah, just like you mentioned earlier, if the intention is right, you're going to have an honest, sincere relationship with Allah also. And so Andrew Tate should really, I think in hard times like these, I honestly and I truly believe that getting connected to Allah is one of the key things that are going to make him victorious.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And also make him stronger and stronger, because I know now he is in a very tough situation. He's a tough guy, he's a warrior, he's a fighter. But also at the same time, getting connected and seeking the support and blessings from Allah is actually where things are better on your turn.
And I could definitely see that. And I could see how, I mean, a lot of people say they find Islam in the hardest days of their lives. I found Islam in the best days of my life. But I can see clearly, if you were struggling, prayer, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that would give you a peace, an inner peace that even if the outside world is chaotic, you could find that as soon as. I know that Andrew was praying every day. So it's like I don't believe that his Arabic is perfect, but I know that it's shrines. I know that he took the Quran. He's reading the Quran really seriously, which is great, beautiful. And inshallah, can be in the UAE or in the Arab world soon, so he can really. I think it's absolutely disgusting the way the man can't even practice his faith properly the way he'd like to, because of all this absolutely logical nonsense has been leveled at him. So inshallah, he'll be here soon, and yeah, I hope to see him benefit from the blessings I've had, which is being able to speak to people like you, having his masjid close by, having lots of brothers. I think it's a lot easier to be learning and to be following that path into being a good Muslim when you're in this part of the world, right? And so I really do pray for Andrew to get over this.
I wanted to ask you this. I mean, you're a very close friend of mine. Does he prioritize his religion, or because a lot of when we look at him on social media, on Twitter, people might get the wrong impression, as in he is just a man of making money and getting cars, and that's it. And some people accuse him of using religion for clout or for attention.
Yeah, I'd love to address that. First of all, when you convert to Islam, the idea that somehow clout, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it too. That there's very clear studies about how Muslims are negatively perceived. So this idea that all of a sudden you convert and everything's rosy, like it's not real. And we see a lot of fairly famous reverts after reverting gone through some really good hardship, and we see that's what happened to Tate, right? So what I'd say with both the Tate brothers, there is a persona that is very different to who they are day to day. Even Tristan's a great example. You look at Tristan, 110 kilos, lean, physical. He is the most...
He's 110.
Yeah, well, he's massive. When it comes to history, when it comes to literature, he is incredibly well read. He can quote specifics from all the major battles over, pretty much the last 500 years. I saw him have an hour-long discussion about the various battles in India over the last 3 centuries with an Indian chat. The Indian guy was like, who is this fella? He can do that with pretty much every country and every major battle around the world. You never know that from his social media.
Yeah,
but spending as much time as I've ever on the tape, others you see it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of depth to Andrew that you do not see in his public persona. He's always, even from when I met him in 2018, he's always been a truth seeker. He's always been the big question. We discussed it, the meaning of life, how to be a good human, what it's all about. Is there a God? It's very important to him to understand truth, and that's why he ended up Islam. I think anyone who objectively looks at the state of the world and looks at the different religions and both the way they enable you to perceive the human experience, the way they enable you to know you're living on the straight path, you're going to find Islam. With respect to all the other religions, nothing comes close to having the structure, the depth, the guidance, the specifics as to how you live your life in Islam. So the reason why Andrew found Islam is because he has that deep-seated need for truth and a relationship with the higher power. He's very deep. He's very philosophical. He's a real thinker. The idea that he somehow reverted for clout is nonsense. He has enough clout. And he is the most Googled man in the world. He doesn't need clout. Let's be correct. And also, that's another thing. To people criticizing his faith, that's haram, right? You've got no idea. You've got no idea about his niyyah. You've got no idea about his practicing, about the conversations that we've even had in this house again and again about Islam, even in this very house. So to anyone who would question Andrew, shame on you. One, faith is a deeply personal thing. How dare you question that? And two, if you'd actually spent time around Andrew, the real Andrew, not the social media persona, you'd know him as inevitable. You'd find Islam anyhow. I've had the chance to sit with him, and absolutely right. He's a very respectable person, very respectful person, and he's very observant. I like the way he looks at things, and he really catches things. Yeah, very perspicacious is the word he uses. He's very detail-oriented and very aware of everything. So, yeah, anyone who wants to throw shade at Andrew Tate, sure, object to some of the things that were said on the internet years ago, but how dare you question his faith? That's just disgusting. And I actually did an interview with a documentary that focused just on questioning a man's faith. Journalists nowadays, they have zero ethics, man. Nothing is sacred. Honestly, it's disgusting. They're the clouds. Yeah, 100%. That's it. The people accusing Tate of reverting for clout, they're the clout seekers. I like that. The most Googled man in the world doesn't revert for clout anyway. It's not logical. He has enough clout. And this documentary is trying to insinuate that he reverted to Islam so that he could make business contacts in the Middle East. I'm sorry, but Tate brand is strong enough for business. Islam has nothing to do with business for Andrew Tate. And I think it's disgusting, unfounded assumptions by those who say otherwise. So thanks for raising. I feel a bit passionate about that, as you can see. That's why I've gone so public, man. I'm sick. I actually know the Tates. I've been around them more than anyone else outside their family in the last 5 years. Seeing this nonsense, seeing this hate thrown at them, the social media persona, they're entertainers. It's different to who they are as people. It's different how they actually interact. I've been around the parties and the girls and the yachts and the jets. I've seen the reality. Nothing that is being represented by all these so-called media or journalist types reflects on the reality of how the Tates live their life. And then the truth will win out. Michelle. Yeah. I look forward to that day, guys. It's going to be a beautiful day. Hopefully not too much away. Anyway, sorry, I went off a bit of tangent there, but I'm very passionate about this because I've seen, I know, so, and it's good that we say it again. You've said it before, but you say it to emphasize that. People know that this is unacceptable. Yeah, true. To accuse someone's intention. Yeah, exactly. Discuss fake and shake. Appreciate that. Okay, so, right. When you see obviously, I think as a revert, the first focus is that of salah.
Yes.
What would you say the other key pillars are to focus on? Both pillars of Islam and pillars of belief that you see reverts often don't give enough time and focus to.
The first thing that's very important was, I see a lot of reverts focus on salah, which is important. Nobody disputes that. But before that, belief. The shahada itself, yes, you sinned, but how are you practicing it in your heart, in your actions? What I mean by that, the 6 pillars of belief. The 6 pillars of belief are different than the 5 pillars of Islam. Do you want to test one of those? And I had some big plan. Says, well, you know that. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I'm not.
Oh, let's see. I mean, it's been a while since I read about it. So 5 pillars of Islam, we have shahada.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's salah, yes, and zom, so fasting, yes, hajj for those who cares, and zakat. Giving specifically to the community, give to that which is supposed.
To be specific, zakat is not bit.
Okay. Oh, we're doing in order as well. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Maybe that's on this one.
Arkanal Imam. Yeah, pillars of Imam. So we have, this won't be in order, but I should get there. Yeah. So there's the angels, the books,
yes,
the messages,
yes.
The Qadr Allah,
yes,
belief in Akhirah,
yes.
And then there's one more. It's not. Is it Tawhid?
You're there.
So the oneness of Allah, one of believing it.
Basically, that pass. So okay, but it's believing in Allah. It's angels, His books, His messengers, but they hereafter, and other. I think the decree of Allah, whether it's good or bad.
And now that I've finished. Now that I've devoted some time to reading about Akhirah,
yes,
I now want to read more about Qadr Allah because I find that to be incredibly interesting.
Oh, that is something so deep. But be careful,
Okay,
it can be confusing at times.
I believe it. But that's an age-old question across all cultures. Is what we're going through in life predestined or is it chance? Like, and say these philosophical. So I want to deep dive into the Islamic view of these. These quintessential questions we see across all cultures and throughout all of time as well. Very interesting.
When we study it, Qadar, the Sheikh said something beautiful that I think you have to always put it there when you are studying or reading about Qadar, the decree of Allah. He said that Qadar is one of the traits of Allah. That is Qadar, His will, that things take place in our lives. It is from His will, from Allah's will. And he said, before you well into that, know that Allah, nothing is like Him. He's the creator, nothing is like the creator. So they say, but nothing is like Allah, and He's all-seeing, all-knowing. Once you know that, then Qadar would be easy to understand. Why? Because sometimes we want to make sense of Qadar in our limited minds. And this will make you stop at a dead end.
I see what you mean. So it's beyond comprehension in a way.
To some extent, it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so we have to understand this when it comes to Qadar. That's why, subhanAllah, the scholars and the companions before that, they didn't like talking about Qadar too much. Because what are you going to say? There is just as much knowledge as we have. There's some things we don't know.
Okay.
We just don't know. We don't know how to ask it. We don't have answers to it.
Okay. So look into it, but don't get too caught up on it.
Yes, know the general kind of understanding of it, and then just go with that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's like a good intent to approach it. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've read about the life of the Prophet. And that was something else. That was another book I should have here. The life of the Prophet. That's what really got me thinking. Wow, this is something. That's a role. That's someone to model use of absolutes. I've also read about Khalid ibn Walid. Walid, thank you. Appreciate that, the Aussie accent coming out. And battle back then was serious. Like you weren't sitting behind a gun at some sort. You're face to face with the enemy. So reading about the sheer amount of combat and of both the strategic victories, but also being on the ground. And how often nowadays do you see leaders on the ground, in combat? They just said, the minions ought to do it. So there's a control. Yeah, exactly. You need respect for that in another country. Yeah. So some other specifically masculine role models that reverts would do well to read about. Those who are seeking to model their form of masculinity after is very strong masculine figures throughout Islamic history.
Before that, I want to ask you, because it's such a general term. What do you mean by masculine?
Okay, for me, I think if you look at masculinity, it comes down to providing and protecting. I think that's the old school values throughout history and throughout species that you see that the male sort of alpha masculine types, the leaders in the tribe,
Even at that, and
doing exactly in the roof and so on. So in order to provide and protect in the modern day as a man, I mean, first of all, you need a certain amount of stoicism, you need emotional control, you need discipline, you need to be good with setting goals, achieving them, all of this conquest-based stuff. And obviously, we don't go to combat anymore, generally speaking, as a species. Our combat, in order to provide and protect for our family, is business, is success, is finding work that's meaningful and monetizing that. So I think it all comes down to providing, protecting. It just depends where you are in life as to what that is. And I think traditional values, traditional gender roles are extremely important for the cohesiveness both of a family or a relationship, a man and a woman, a family and a society. And I think that's where we see the West falling over, is masculinity has been labeled as a bad thing. Even femininity has been labeled as a bad thing. They want us all to be these sort of 50-50 robots or really each other. Like it's a mess. So I'd say for me, masculinity is very simple. It's the old school values that you see in embodying through traditional responsibilities of the man, providing, protecting. And
it's a good way of thinking of it. And to be honest, after the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as a role model, we look at the other prophets. Okay, they are great role models to masculinity, to what you have just explained, to being responsible, being protective, being somebody who stands up there in front of evil, in front of harm, in front of danger, and really putting your sacrificing yourself basically for others, the safety of the community. If this is masculinity, then Moses is a role model.
yeah,
How he fought for his people, how he protected them, how he helped the two ladies at the well. There's a lot of stories about Moses. Yusuf was also a very beautiful masculine role. How he was thrown in jail because of a frame, because he was accused of adultery. And maybe a person come to mind. It's not the first time that approach has been used to cancel someone, to shut someone. Yeah, see, there you go. The prophets before us, were in that situation. That comes down to the companions. You mentioned Khalid ibn al-Walid. Abu Bakr, the second Khalifa, was a great masculine role. When the Prophet ﷺ died, and that was a great calamity, people couldn't handle the shock. Umar said, first died, he said, anybody who, because he loved him so much, he said, anybody who says the Prophet died, I'm going to hit his head, hit it with a sword. Abu Bakr was different. He was wise. He said, Allah is alive and the Prophet died. Whoever worships the Prophet, and he is wrong, and we worship Allah. And he put his emotions aside and he took order, he took charge after the Prophet. Great responsibility. Who's going to come and be the same caliber of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, leading this ummah of Muslims to handle it, to lead? That's a very masculine thing to do.
Not especially in times of uncertainty.
Uncertain. After the Prophet died, what happened to the Arabs and the tribes around in the Arabian Peninsula? All of them, not all of them, but many of them, they left Islam. They said the Prophet died, khalas, no more Islam. He asked them for zakat. He said, no more zakat. The Prophet used to get our zakat. We're not going to pay you zakat. You're not the Prophet. What did he do? He waged war against all of them. That's masculinity. To preserve the authenticity, the identity of Islam. To preserve Islam.
So yeah, defining what you believe in.
What for so many? This is masculinity. When he first became Khalifa, he used to milk cow for his neighbors and sheep. That was something he gestured for his neighbors. As soon as he became Khalifa, the first morning, or when he became Khalifa, old lady said to him, he's not gonna, now he's too busy, he's the president, basically. He's not gonna be able to come and help us with the cattle. The first morning he came and he started helping everyone around.
And beautiful.
So the responsibilities, as you said, all of them were like the companions. Umar was a great responsible Khalifa. He used to say that I am scared that maybe in the day of judgment, a sheep would come and complain about me to Allah, that I was not fed when he was president. So that great responsibility of Umar also was something, unmatched. And really, if you look at all the stories of the Sahaba, you'll find what you had explained as masculinity, you're going to find it top notch right there.
I like that. So you don't need to necessarily seek out masculine figures. Pretty much everyone embodies masculine.
You apply Islam, you're going to naturally, automatically become masculine. You apply Islam, you're going to naturally become a feminine if you are, of course, a female. Islam encourages that, naturally embeds that in your appearance. That's why it tells you, grow a beard.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't wear silk, don't wear gold. Be masculine.
Femine's okay then, right?
But
It's happening. And I think that's, and again, I think that's why nowadays, especially in the West, any man who believes in traditional gender roles and wants to be that old school, stoic, provider, protector, carer, leader in his community, I think without Islam, it's going to be very difficult. I really do. Because how else do you stand up to the assault on the traditional ways? And it's you see it pushed in so many different directions.
Islam is the solution, just like Kay said before. Islam is the solution. And yeah, sorry to say, but we don't need red pills. We don't need feminism. We don't need all these things came when they let go of Islam to solve a problem. There was a problem of women being oppressed. There was a problem that males are losing their responsibility and authority in society. So they said, okay, let's bring up a solution. What's the solution? Red pill. What's the solution? Feminism. What's the solution? Liberalism, wokeism, whatever it is. But we say, why do you need all that? You have a very beautiful lifestyle that solves all these issues.
Very clear guideline, very specific guideline.
Absolutely. This is hard sometimes, but it's hard because you have changed your lifestyle into something unnatural. Now, when we present you something that is natural, something that will solve the solution, it's too tough, it's too restricting. And maybe you want to be prevailing and tapping, yes, you have to sacrifice a little bit.
It's awesome. I like that. And that's the thing. I think things like red pill, they'll call out what's wrong, but they don't have any solutions. The green pill, however, Islam, it has the clear guides, it has the solutions. But as to your point, that involves some sacrifice, that involves less gratification than most people are buying into. It involves a high degree of self-control.
The red pill, in itself, it seeks tangible things. It seeks worldly things. And when you do that, you look at and focus on outcomes. This is a problem. Why? Because we know in our life the decree of Allah is by Allah. Our outcome is by Allah, not by us. This is Islam. So what Islam tells you is don't look at the outcome or don't focus too much on the outcome. Focus on today, now. Focus on what you can do, but don't worry about the outcome. This is a very different take and approach to life. Why? Because when you do that, whatever the outcome is, but do your best. So live today. Don't worry too much about tomorrow. It will happen. Yeah, whether it is good or bad. In red pill or people who are not really connected with Allah and the decree of Allah, they'll think about the outcome always. They'll worry too much about the outcome. That's why we see a lot of people have a nervous breakdown or maybe seek suicide or really cannot continue life anymore. Why? Because of the shock of the result. Oh, this didn't happen. I was expecting it to happen. It didn't happen. And this is what breaks people.
Yeah, and that's where I see Islam tying into mental resilience. If you genuinely believe in Allah, you can get through a lot of difficulty in life. So you're going to accept as, that's part of my path.
I did what I had to do. It didn't happen. I don't have to cry about it. I accept. I have some of patience.
Also, the concept that I like with different belief systems, whether it's wokeism or red pill, how's that working out for you? If you look at the red pill leaders, if you will, how are their relationships? They're a mess. So why would you choose relationship guidance from someone whose relationships are a mess?
It's a very bad subject.
It's the same with like the workers types. And it's almost comical how unfulfilled they are. Well, any one of these woke types, where they're in a relationship where it's man and woman are the same and everything's, they're not happy people. It doesn't work. That's the ultimate question to all these modern sort of philosophies or doctrines. How's that working out for you, friend? It's the easiest way to screen them out.
They're liars. If they say it's working out their lives, their life is a mess, just like you said.
And they lack the self-awareness to see how desperately unhappy they are. So, all right, awesome, like you said. Okay, so I'd really like to move on to Salat now. I have some specific questions.
Yeah.
Why do we raise the finger during prayer? What's that piece about? I haven't read anywhere explaining that.
It's a very interesting question, and it's an important question. We have an answer question. We call it in Arabic tawqifiyya. Tawqifiyya means waqf, in stop. That's like stop, waqf. So in answer question, we call it tawqifiyya, meaning that acts of worship are performed as the Prophet taught us how it is.
Okay.
Why? We do.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Ablution, wudu, is it an act of worship? Yes. Like, why do I have to worship here? This is not dirt. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So no, it's a ritual. Just do it as it is. Why do we bow down? Why do we prostrate? Why? It's just an act of worship that Allah told us how to do it, and we confirm it through authentic narrations. And so the Prophet did say, the Prophet did do it, so we do it as it is.
Okay.
So why? The Prophet did it, we do it.
Okay. Listen, thank you. Got it. Now, one question. I can't really do it. My feet don't do that. But the one foot down, the other foot sort of up, when you're kneeling.
Yes.
Is that so? Back in the day, if we were looking, tribal dynamics, you could jump up and use your sword. Like, is that a readiness thing? Like, why do we have one just anywhere? Because I mean, you are all ready to jump up. Then if you had both feet down, is that somehow tied in?
Same as the previous.
That's how it just sounded. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it's a warrior thing. It's readiness.
Probably anything, because prayer is not is not excused during battle. You know.
Yeah, I've actually seen how to pray on the battlefield. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a special kind of way.
It's very cool. All right, thank you. Now, just a quick one. Astaghfirullah and Revert.
Yeah.
Are they not the same meaning, or what's the difference?
Just different wording. Rabbi ighfirli, oh Lord, forgive me. Astaghfirullah, oh Allah, I seek forgiveness from you.
Because we use them in different times throughout.
Yes. So, and also, this is, the Prophet said it, as it is, we say.
All right, easy. Yeah, understood. Thank you. You can take that on, thank you. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of Arabic language to pray properly. I don't think it's vital. For people who are looking to learn Arabic in order to pray properly, is there a specific resource you'd recommend, or a specific approach?
Well, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of things on the website or online. And the book that you have mentioned, that you are reading, I think that's a great guide. It's been studied and reviewed by a lot of students of knowledge. Alhamdulillah, like I said, online you can find a lot of material. I think most of them will be sufficient.
One I really like on Instagram's learning Arabic sentence by sentence. Do you know the chap? He breaks it down sentence by sentence really well.
Who's that?
And it's his name's Mohammed, and basically his whole thing is learning Arabic sentence by sentence.
Nice.
And he has both the religious and the day-to-day. You look on Instagram, so that's the result. I find that really useful.
It's nice to get involved into such material. I think slowly you'll pick up the language, just get familiar with it.
Okay, it's not Spanish, so you're not going to learn it over a few weeks in
But I just want to point out something. Learning Arabic for the sake of Allah and to establish your religion, every word that you learn, you're going to be rewarded for it. You're getting closer to Allah with these things. So if you fix your intention that I'm doing it for the sake of Allah and I want to practice how to the religion better, you're in an act of worship, like San.
What fantastic motivation like that. All right, so I've got an interesting one. It's a bit personal. So whenever I pray, I've got my book that I take in, this little bit of book.
Yes.
At the end of the prayer, I give thanks for everything that I've got. I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect those I care about. Or we have to pause short it. And then I ask that all those who are suffering find peace in their hearts firmly through Islam.
Yes.
I give thanks for my brothers and their well-being and pray for them. And then I just sit for a while. I have a sensation of being at home. And having been out of Australia for 15 years, often I miss that feeling of being home. I crave to go back to Australia, be around the nature, these sorts of things. I get that exact same sensation in the masjid as if I'm home. Is that something you've seen other Muslims talking about? Or is that a concept? Is that a thing?
Yeah, because, well, basically when you pray and you remember Allah, you're feeding your soul. This is a natural thing that people need. And this is...
It was true. You were boosting your insides. That's how
you feel good. I sometimes I think get goosebumps when I just pray, and it just had that exciting feeling. I don't know, it's just a feeling that's you're fulfilling your existence, your purpose in life. And definitely you're gonna feel good about it. Even actually when we're fasting and you break your fast, you feel joy, not because of the food. You just like, man, I just fulfilled a very good act of worship for the sake of Allah. Yes, you were hungry, and now you eat, and you just feel so good about it.
It's a satisfaction knowing you're living on a Sirat al-Mustaqim, you're living on a straight path.
Allah did not make this a high standard, rewarding standard for nothing. You feel good about it. And it's related.
No, so that emotional element is a nice bonus. I didn't come to Islam for emotional reasons. It was logical. It was very much a conscious decision over many years. But the emotional beauty, it's like, I heard that analogy of jumping into the river. I really, going to the masjid praying, I feel like I am jumping into a river of comes, and then I come back out into Donyard with more energy. It's a life. I don't want to cheapen anything, but that's a life hack. Like it gives it, like, again, don't say anything disrespectful, but it gives you so much more energy to deal with, the physical world.
The Prophet used to do that. Anytime he's tired, he's stressed, there's a problem, he goes to prayer. He just switches off, comes back.
I love it now. I love that we can do the exact same thing all these years later. It's about now. I've got questions about relationships and some of them involved. Should we pause and do a part two, or should we pray and come back? How's your energy level? How's your still?
I'm good, man. I got a lot of caffeine in my system.
Okay, so all right. Well, let's crack on. Pause, pray, come back. Okay, so it's good. Let's talk about relationships. So I've seen from talking to a lot of my Muslim brothers, specifically men, I understand the importance of getting married early. I think it's an important thing to do so you don't get caught up in temptation, all these sorts of things. But if you've grown up in the West, there's that blue pill conditioning everywhere. So the idea of blue pill is it trains you away from being masculine, it trains you away from traditional values, and also there's the feminine piece. So women aren't necessarily, there to help a man and there to compete with a man. If you're in the West and you're a Muslim and you don't necessarily have a lot of experience as a man, going into a relationship with that still Western programming that you're around, a lot of the time the relationship dynamic will be a bit tricky. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you're in a modern society and you're trying to live a traditional relationship. So I see a real lack of guidance for young Muslim men in the West who want to get married. A lot of the time they're going in without much experience. And as a general rule, unfortunately, things don't really work out. If you go into marriage with the Western programming about how relationships should be, that relationship should be a mess. Yeah. So what would you say to young Muslim men? Is I see the hunger for that. For them to be aware of in going into relationships, specifically in the West.
Yeah. Like you said, you need to establish your masculinity in order for you to have a good, successful marriage. And when you seek marriage, don't seek it on Western standards. And a lot of people get into a relationship or married. Well, not before that, they have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Sorry to say, test drive. Oh, I want to test the relationship with her. We want to live together. No, khalas, you failed already. You failed her. This is not how you approach marriage. You approach marriage through traditional values, through the halal approach, where you go and seek it from her parents, from her guardian. You don't go to her, because when you go to her, the shaitan is with you, and you're gonna get things mixed up.
Desire, right?
Absolutely. The Prophet said,
essentially, as a young man, you can trick away your ones.
Yeah, you're not gonna control yourself. The Prophet said, the greatest fitna I left for men, women, it is fitna for them. What's that?
We didn't know that part. That's a win.
Yeah, he said
it's so true.
It is. You can see it. You'll see if they want to see it. And he said it actually destroyed the nations before you. It's not destroyed the nations before you. Be wary of that, brothers. And that's why, sorry to say, the West is using women. Using women in every possible way. I have a master's in strategic marketing, and they tell us this. You want to sell something? Put a woman. With a half-naked woman, whatever it is, tractors,
sex sells.
Yeah, that's it. Or men are just gonna swarm you, and so we have to be aware of that. We have to, and the sisters, be aware of that. Don't get caught up in all this. Wear your hijab properly. Be a good Muslim woman, and don't destroy the nation. Don't destroy your brothers.
I see the allure of feminism and the girl power movement. You can do nothing as good as girl power feminism stuff. You can be rude, you can be lazy, but hey, you're a woman, so you're amazing. Yeah, I see the allure of that. Imagine if I could wake up and do anything, just be amazing. Where do I sign up? Feminism is I think that's how shaitan gets in the head of women, because it's very seductive, the whole feminist girl power movement.
Absolutely. So we have to be aware of it. Like I said, first set up the standards, the Islamic standard, whether you're a woman or a man, and then get married. Don't get married and say, well, I will get married to apply my standard to Islamic standards. You failed already. And that's why we see a lot of divorce, the divorce rate in Muslim countries are higher now. Why? Because of that, because they are marrying based on Western standards.
Yeah, okay. And I saw some guidance in there as well to the young man that to get your masculinity right, that means getting a certain amount of money.
It's not a democracy.
Yeah, building a mindset where you can lead a family.
Yes.
I think...
You're the authority. Yeah. So build that authority with money, with authority, with personality, with everything, with responsibility. Don't think, oh, we're together. No. There's one captain of the ship.
I like that. Excellent. I like that. Shall we?
Yes.
Okay, the way it was there. Okay.
Can I publicize that?
Please, mate, please. No. It's a bit fun. Okay. We are?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What do you think?
Well,
I have to give a shout out to Al Wajaba Taylors.
what's that?
Incredible service, incredible quality. I took every green color that they have. Actually, okay, fantastic. So
Incredible job.
appreciate that. So we're talking about relationships. If we can continue with that, and then we can ask some modern day Islam in the modern world questions. One question I've always wondered is, what if your wife has a different faith as a revert, and she's very strong in that faith? And also, as a sort of secondary question, when is it appropriate, or what's the guidance in terms of talking to children? At what age is it appropriate to talk to them about Islam and about faith?
With regards to your wife, as you know, alhamdulillah, we are allowed as men to marry women of different faiths, but in specific Jews and Christians.
People of the book.
People of the book, people of the scriptures, we are allowed to marry them if they are at a chaste and modest, then it is fine. As a matter of fact, even if she is Muslim, but she is not a very modest girl, been around, and that's not advisable, of course. But technically speaking, it's not like marriage is nullified, but it's not advisable.
I mean, even without religion, it's not advisable, perhaps.
Exactly, it's still cause trouble for you and for herself, of course.
The statistics show if a woman has been with over 10 sexual partners, her chance of a long marriage is decreased massively. Like there are actual statistics. It's real.
At this time we don't need these statistics. So we go with that. But yes, that's a supplement to support our argument.
Okay, nice. I like that, Fred. I like it.
With regards to children, alhamdulillah, there are levels and depths of Islam that you can present. You're a relatively new Muslim. There is a package for you. There is people who are seekers of knowledge. There's a package for them to go really deep into the all details of Islam. And also for children. The Prophet ﷺ at his time, when the revelation happened, there were children around him. And he talked of Islam. But he didn't give them the in-depth, all the other details about Islam, but he gave them the concept of it. What is the core of Islam? Tawheed. Allah is watching you. If you want to seek help, seek from Allah. This Ibn Abbas, his cousin, was a young man. And he taught him things. He taught him about Islam in that manner. Be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. Fear Allah. You know that Allah is watching you. And this is what I teach my kids too.
My kids message me right now. So the only notification I get is my kids.
I'm not interested.
And as we talk about
and something very important, I think you have to emphasize as a Muslim for your kids today, because we mentioned this before, they're out to get our kids. And you have to teach your kids this. I had a personal encounter with my little girl. I'm here in the UAE. I've never lived outside. My little girl comes and tells me something that is very discreet but very concerning. She said, "Can I color my hair rainbow?" Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's a red flag. What do you mean by rainbow? Where did you get that? So I started just asking her in a nice way, "What do you mean by rainbow? What do you think of this?" She said, "Baba, there's this boy who colors rainbow and he's girl." And so I understood that there is some kind of message. They're trying to indoctrinate my kids in a way. And so I tell you, Muslims, you have to tell them that this is wrong in a nice way. How? Don't just tell them haram, haram, haram. No. Explain to them, Allah created us as man and woman. If you want to change, that means we don't like what Allah gave us. Meaning that, yeah. So you have to explain to them, simplify it into their level. We are human, you are girl, you like to dresses. If you become like a man, then who's going to take your role? Allah created you as girl, you have to be happy of that. You have to be having sex or choosing. Exactly. So I think you have to put a barrier between Muslim and non-Muslim. Today, there is a mixture of this tolerance, even in gender and even in belief. And we have a very, very important concept for reverts and for the Muslims to understand, which is wala wa bara. Wala wa bara. Association and disassociation. Association with the people of good, association with the Muslim, and disassociation religiously with the people of disbelief. And in the Quran is filled with that. I don't worship what you worship, and you don't worship what I worship. Surah Al-Kafirun, it's a very short surah. Tells you about that, yeah. Disassociate from them. But that doesn't mean we don't work with them. We are not kind to them. No, We are kind to them. The Prophet ﷺ was very kind to the non-Muslims. His neighbor was a Jew. He was dying. He rushed to his house. And he came and gave him shahad. Say shahada before you die. If he was hateful because of who he is, he wouldn't go to his house. Let him die as a Muslim. He'll burn it or whatever. No, he rushed to him. He wanted to help him. And so we have to have that distinction. Religiously, we distinguish ourselves from non-Muslims. But we are kind to them. As a matter of fact, Islam came to call people to Islam. How are you going to call people to Islam if you are disassociate completely from other non-Muslims? That's not going to work. Your religion is going to go extinct. It's an expanding religion.
Very much so.
Yeah. So teach your kids that you are Muslim and they are non-Muslim. And when that happens in celebrations, Christmas, things like that. Baba, we want to do Christmas. Hold on, you're Muslim. Can't do Christmas. And alhamdulillah, kids today, they understand this concept. You're Muslim, you cannot do Christmas. We have Eid, we have Ramadan, we have this. So do that stuff.
I like it. That sense. And it's interesting tying into that. Even before I found Islam, I made it very clear to my kids that there are various, shall we say, entities or various bodies out there that want to influence the way you think.
Yeah.
And you must be very conscious of that, because the way they're trying to get you to think isn't necessarily in your best interests. So even in an early age, my kids would come to me and say, hey, Dad, I saw this on Netflix. For example, my son would say, I see there's a girl power section on Netflix, but there's no boy power. Why is that, Dad? And I just say, why do you think, son? And he would talk through what he sees happening. As long as your children understand in a fairly early age that there are, it's shaitan, even though I'm going to call it that.
Yes.
There are forces trying to get you to think a certain way, which won't lead to you being filled. And they can be aware of that. They can sort of guard themselves against that mentally. I think that's an important role of a parent nowadays.
And teach your kids, your boy, to be masculine, to be responsible, to all this stuff.
And role model, absolutely, as myself.
Yes,
Definite. Role model to your son, the sort of man you should seek to become. Role model to your daughter, the sort of husband she should seek to find. That's my approach. Absolute point of this point. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that also. Now, I have a question which is interesting. So, at the moment in the West, as I understand, you can chop something off, you can do, like, there's no way you can chop something. I mean, as I know, yeah, as for this month, the side effects. Yeah, I mean, that's legal in the West, right? You can disfigure yourself. Of course, if a man wants to identify as a woman, he is legally allowed to disfigure himself and take hormones. And even you see it being pushed on people who are still teenagers. You see this stuff. They encourage them to do that. That is legal. However, as I understand it, in somewhere like the UK, a Muslim family cannot have two wives. How is that a thing? How do they justify that? Kids can chop themselves up, irreversible damage, yet a Muslim man can't have, or a Muslim family can't engulf one man and multiple wives. And how is that a thing?
Even in some countries, you can't even wear the hijab properly. If you wear a niqab, that's not allowed, of course.